Excuse me. Welcome everybody to my discussion of Batman Eternal number 9. As I've said before, I'm just gonna every week talk about Batman Eternal and or any other and if I have them, any other Batman related comics. I think though that this is the only Batman related comic I got this week. And it'd be interesting to see if I blather on about it for a really long amount of time, because basically it was a really good issue and I enjoyed it. It was fun. Batman popcorn, you might say. Good advancement of a few of the plot threads, especially the main thread of what Batman's up to. And it had great art by Guillaume Marsh, and great coloring. They don't credit, DC still does not credit colorists on the cover. Great coloring by Tomeo Mori, like that spread page right there is great coloring and great layouts. I mentioned last week that I really liked Marsh's layouts, and I felt that even more strongly in this issue. There was just a lot of really nice layouts that make to me the layouts are a large part of the pleasure of reading the comic, how well the layouts are done. One tends to notice the actual drawing of the figures and the rendering of the art, but really when I think about it a lot, with thinking about comic books too much since doing these videos, a lot has to do with the layouts and the flow of the action. This will have spoilers because unlike my regular comic book thoughts, I am going to just discuss this as thoroughly as I feel like it. So yeah, there's a bit of a revelation right at the end, which I will mention in a little bit. So an interesting, or thoughts that I had on this issue, and just to quickly say, it's Batman goes to Hong Kong to investigate what Falcone, the mob boss, has been doing in Hong Kong before he returned to Gotham so suddenly, trying to figure out what's up with him and see if there's any clues to his plans. Mostly what he found out was that Falcone had been involved in a mob war in Hong Kong and had been winning and then suddenly left. And eventually Batman catches up to the mob boss who won the fight and beats him up and beats him until he tells him the answer, which of why Falcone left and how he won the fight with Falcone, which is that Falcone just suddenly said, "I don't want to do this fight anymore. I'll leave if you give me 65% of your profits." So I guess he was going to lose anyway, so he said yes to that deal. And so we got an interesting kind of humiliation of this surely vicious mob boss. I have questions in my mind about, Batman beats him up, so is that torture? And the way it's done, he's like, please no more to Batman's beating, and then and Batman says, give me the right answer, talk, and then he gives Batman the answer. So this is my one moment of seriousness in what is really just a fun bubblegum book. But comic books in general, and certainly Batman, assume that beating people up is a good way to get answers. Now, we get a lot of reports about the use of torture in the war on terrorism and the value of torture and whether torture really gets you good information or if it gets you as much false information as it gets you positive information. I haven't personally researched the issue, but that just did come up to my mind. I was a little bit... I wanted something a little bit more subtle there, I guess, just both aesthetically and because I'm a bit perturbed by the thought of torture in comics when I don't know, though. It does seem on a visceral level that if someone's beating you up, you'll tell them the truth. But I don't know if that's the case. Okay, but apart from that, I thought it was kind of cool. This builds Falcone up. It makes him a more formidable enemy. And I'm afraid, I think I mostly know Falcone through the Year One by Frank Miller. I'm afraid I don't know why Falcone should be so formidable. You know, most of Batman's villains are these costumed freaks, and their costume and their whole super identity, their supervillain identity, lets you know what their talents and skills are. I'm not sure what Falcone's talents and skills are. Why is he the best mob boss of them all? But this is beginning to give me a little bit of that, and I like that. He's certainly vicious, and he certainly has a thing over Catwoman. Perhaps they once even had a relationship, or perhaps not. Perhaps she just scarred him in some way that was traumatic to him, and he wants revenge. So there's this kind of intense scene where Catwoman is captured by Falcone, and I'm definitely on the edge of my seat of what's going to happen to Catwoman. I understand from people talking about the preview that surely Catwoman's going to survive and perhaps thrive in the future. So it's kind of unfortunate to know that. Even though I didn't read Batman 28, I listened to people's reviews about it. There's this character that I thought was Catwoman at the end of last issue. There's the actual Catwoman. I've really been enjoying Catwoman a lot in this series, which is nice. And there's another character, a woman in a cat burglar suit, but no cat ears, climbing the tower. And I just assumed she was someone we should know who she is, because so many other characters pop up in this series from out of the Batman lore. But in fact, she's not someone who Batman knows. And it turns out at the end that she is someone named Julia Pennyworth. I'm presuming a relative of Alfred's from his expression. So there's my big spoiler. I should have warned you guys, but I did warn you earlier that I was going to spoil this. So that is also a really kind of cool reveal, because somehow, because we only know so much about what Alfred's up to and what he thinks of everything, every time we get clues about Alfred, it's very interesting. Just in Batman stories in general. I wonder if there's probably somewhere been a miniseries on Alfred. I don't really want to know his origins so much as I want to know his day-to-day, what his point of view on events is. That's very intriguing to me. So, anyway, I'm pretty sure that I've seen this Tokyo Japanese Batman character in some Batman Incorporated. I never really focused on him. It was kind of fun having him in the mix. I like his sidekicks, or his team that we saw briefly. This girl with the angel wings and this old man that serves the tea. And his hideout, or the Batman Inc. hideout that has another giant dinosaur in it at the top of the tower in Hong Kong. I don't know how silly is it to have the Tokyo Batman come to Hong Kong for this adventure. Is that culturally insensitive to just assume that there ought to be a Hong Kong Batman? Maybe there's a Hong Kong Batman too. I almost want to see someone like Jet Li show up, or a Chow Yun Fat kind of Hong Kong Batman. If you guys understand the reference to the Star of the Killers and several other great Hong Kong movies of the several decades ago, I guess, of the golden age of Hong Kong movies. Yeah, so just overall, really pleasurable issue. I think Gilliam Marsh is a really good choice for a fun Batman story. it would be nice if it was just him and people are walking by and it made me lose my train of thought. Him and Jason Fabok doing the art back and forth, that would be really excellent. But anyway, I haven't had too many complaints on the art, except for the changing of it so much. I still stand by my notion that Gilliam Marsh, more than other artists, feels like a throwback to the past. And I said to the 90s and the late 80s, that might not be entirely right. I mean, there are little moments where he even reminds me of Joe Kubert. Like when he's doing faces and stuff, and the quality of some of his line work. A little bit of Jim Aparo, and quite a bit of Kelly Jones, who was the Batman artist that I remember in the 90s, and pictures like that. And that seemed very Kelly Jones-ish to me, minus the giant bat ears. But, I mean, he's a more realistic artist than Kelly Jones was, but there is a sense of reality being kind of stretchable in a way that I feel like artists back in the 90s and the 80s stretched reality. And plenty of artists stretch reality now, but they seem to do it in other ways, if that makes sense. And this cover, which is also by Marsh, just the way the characters are positioned and everything, just to me feels very much like a comic book of the 90s. But in a good way, not a bad way. The 90s weren't all bad, and his reinterpretation of the past, I feel, is very effective and enjoyable, at least in these 2 issues of Batman Eternal, for sure. He does a lot of covers for DC, and I haven't always liked his covers. And I didn't love his work on Talon. I didn't read all of it. So yeah, even that picture of Pennyworth there, of Alfred, looks very 90s to me somehow. And as I said, the coloring is wonderful. So yeah, very enjoyable issue. I hope maybe he does one more issue, and they continue this storyline as it's been going on. It seems like Batman could have found out even more about Falcone, given that he traveled all that distance, but it's comics, you know. It's just a beat of a story, and we'll find out more about Falcone in other ways later. But yeah, as I said, I'm just really psyched. I'm now interested in Falcone, and I want to learn more about him. I'm interested in his past with Catwoman. I doubt this Japanese Batman will show up again, but it would be fun if he did, if he came and visited Gotham. Okay, well, yeah, the Bat fun continues. Talk to you all later.